ago because he didn't want the state to have that power over him, so he decided to end his life rather than the state end his life. 3 more were granted clemency by the governor of Illinois because everybody knew it was bullshit, to be perfectly honest. So that is where this day comes from. We come out on May 1st to celebrate the struggles of all working people, all marginalized people, all oppressed people around the world, because after this, the International Working Men's Association declared May 1st Labor Day, and it's celebrated everywhere in the world except for the United States, because the United States said it was too dangerous to the working class. The United States government at various times declared May 1st Loyalty Day. They declared May 1st Law Day because they thought there was too much socialism. They thought it might rile up the masses into socialism if we celebrated May Day. So for years and years and years, when workers came out to celebrate May Day in the United States, they were oppressed by the police, like they do, we've all experienced this. They came out and they destroyed them. And we were told that this was, a Soviet Union holiday. Despite that, we have continued, small groups of us have continued to celebrate May Day for years and years and years. This is why I'm so happy to see so many people out here today in Colorado Springs, because May Day is coming back, because working people, marginalized people are fighting back. We're starting to stand up again, right? So in the 1960s, another era of massive change in the United States, they also celebrated May Day. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with this story. On May 1st, 1971, after Richard Nixon had decided to escalate the war in Vietnam, to send more working folks, working class people, off to fight other working class people in the jungles of Vietnam, the May Day tribe declared a massive civil disobedience in Washington, D.C. that would happen from May 1st to May 5th. Thousands of people converged on Washington, D.C. on May 1st and camped out in Washington, D.C. to start their direct action on May 3rd. Nixon pulled all of their permits and sent out the Marines and the National Guard to round them up. Over the next few days in Washington, D.C., over 12,000 people were rounded up and arrested. They actually had to keep them in a stadium because they didn't have enough jail space. Over 12,000 people were rounded up in the largest mass arrest in the United States because of this massive May Day civil disobedience.
How's everybody doing out there today? We're live at Acacia Park in Colorado Springs for International Workers' Rights Day, May Day.
Sentiment that was going on in the country.
Hope everybody's having a good day out there.
Anti-immigrant sentiment all over. Sensenbrenner had pushed a bill. We called it the Sensenbrenner bill. It was a draconian bill aimed at criminalizing the existence of undocumented workers in the United States. They would be considered criminals just for being in the United States without documents. They could be rounded up and taken to jail. So on May 1st, 2006, a group of immigrant rights organizations declared they were going to have a massive strike and boycott in the United States, inspired by the film A Day Without a Mexican. So on that day, May 1st, 2006, tens of thousands of immigrants and their supporters decided to go on strike and to boycott businesses in the United States. Here in Colorado Springs, there were 4,000 people in the streets of Colorado Springs. Immigrant businesses shut down, A, because they couldn't get workers, and in solidarity with immigrants. Students walked out of schools all over the country, including here in Colorado Springs, which how often do we see that in Colorado Springs? I cannot remember the last time we had a student walk out. Businesses closed all over the country. The meatpacking industry essentially shut down in the United States on that day because they did not have enough workers. So they went out into the street, probably 250,000 roughly in the United States, went out into the streets and effectively killed the Sensenbrenner bill. But it also showed the amount of power that not only immigrants and immigrant supporters had. It showed the power of standing up together with one another. When we stood up, we defeated the bill. When we stood up in 1886, we won an 8-hour workday through direct action. It didn't take politicians doing things for us. It took us doing for ourselves through direct action, through organizing. So that's what this day is really about. When we come out on May Day, yes, we're remembering the Haymarket Martyrs. We're also coming together to fight for ourselves, to fight for each other in solidarity with one another. So I want you to remember when we go out on May Day that this is for us. This isn't for politicians fighting for us. This is for working people, marginalized people, oppressed people, all over the world, standing up for ourselves and fighting for ourselves. So just before we end this, I just wanted to start a little chant because we're gonna after the speakers and the music today, we're gonna take a march down Cajon Street. We're gonna stop by Hickenlooper's office because Hickenlooper we feel isn't doing enough to support passage of the PRO Act. And then we're gonna go down to the Pioneers Museum and march back. So I just want to get us warmed up with a few chants before then. So maybe you guys know this one. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. All right, you guys are gonna have to be louder than that. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. All right, excellent. So, thank you very much, everybody. Our next speaker is drum roll. Where's our drum? We need a drum roll. All right, our next speaker is Joe from the Colorado Springs Democratic Socialists of America. He's going to come up here and talk about the PRO Act. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, I don't know.
Hello, everyone. Before I start, I just want to propose a toast. So if you have a bottle of water, go ahead and grab it. If you don't have some water, there's some in the big blue cooler over by the food tables. Hydrate or diet. So, a toast to the
Oh,
revolution.
thank God. I was lucky because I was renting in a landlord's like you saw. My rent was so cheap.
When I was growing up
I'm in trouble now.
back in St. Louis, I was taught about this thing called the American dream.
They were really hard to
I was told that in America, everyone had equal opportunity to achieve the things that they want to achieve in life. That if you work hard and pick yourself up by your bootstraps, you can do anything. So that was a lie. In America, we have over 40 million people that are uninsured or underinsured. Before the pandemic, we had 500,000 people that were unhoused before the pandemic. Right? We have an entire generation that is saddled by thousands and thousands of dollars in student debt. And we have another generation that's about to be crushed by that student debt. I could keep talking about the numerous issues we have.
Tim, nice to meet you. You're the one
I'd
that
like
called,
to
right?
think about
All right,
the last
definitely.
time
Thanks for coming down.
that the American dream was even close to a reality. And even then, it was a reality for only some people. And that was post-World War II, when we had active participation in unions. Right now, I think the total portion of the working class that's unionized is 8%, I think, somewhere less than 10%. That's pretty abysmal. So, some questions for you. Who here wants Medicare for all? Who wants tuition-free public university? What about defunding the police? I wanted to see their reaction. But I could keep going. Again, there are so many of these games that not even just socialists want. These are policies that are wildly popular throughout the entire country. And the way for us to really exert some power and win those gains organized labor.
Yeah.
And right now there's a bill that just passed the House. It's going to be voted on by the Senate at some point. Hopefully after the filibuster's done. But it's called the PRO Act. And the PRO Act would be a game changer for organized labor. It would lift the prohibition on secondary strikes, so a union could go on strike to support another union. It would end right-to-work laws, which would eliminate the free rider problem. It would require employers to come to a first agreement with the union. Because right now, even if a union vote is successful, the employer can still back out later and not come to an agreement. It would also end the independent contractor distinction. So independent contractors like Uber drivers, Amazon delivery drivers, Postmates and Grubhub, they would finally be actual employees. Again, I can keep going about what the PRO Act can do because it's pretty incredible. But the main point is that right now we have 3 senators that are Democrats and have not voiced their support for the PRO Act. We brought that number down from 5.
Okay. You're good.
We made over 500,000 calls nationwide and flipped Angus King as well as Joe frickin' Manchin, which was a huge surprise. But we have 3 to go. So the DSA is still doing calls all across the nation. If you are interested in learning more about how you can support this cause and help get the PRO Act passed, DSA is set up at the back table with the red flags. Please leave your contact info. We appreciate any thank you for listening. My spiel with another chant. If you may have heard this one, but it's going to be a repeat after me chant. So, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Great. Thanks, everyone. All right, have a great day, all.
Thank you, Joe. All right, next up we have Les Thompson from the Colorado Springs Area Labor Council. I don't know what he's going to talk about. Or he's just
yeah, but I need to tell him because he won't say the right stuff. She knows why I'm listening. I have the same problem.
Thank you all for coming out today. So, talk about the history of Mayday, talk about the PRO Act. I'm the president of the Colorado Springs Area Labor Council. Labor Council is a coalition of about 34 local unions.
Take a bite of that burger while it's in here.
I'm biting it. Okay.
This membership in Colorado Springs. You heard Joe talk about the union density. About 8%. It's actually about 11% of all
You take pictures for
belong
them.
to a union. At the height of union membership, that was 33%. That was just after the National Labor
I'll
Relations
fist bump.
Over the past 8 years, the National Labor Relations Act has been eroded, rights taken away, workers' rights, ability to do stuff has been restricted. The PRO Act will go a long way, killing a lot of that, and giving workers the right to organize on the job. Right now, the Colorado State Senate has a bill for agriculture. Workers that work on farms, pick our food, grow our food, do not have the same rights and protections as people who work downtown. They don't have minimum wage protection. So it's time for us is just working class people to stand together and start standing up for each other. Start redefining the way we work. John mentioned the 8-hour day. We still don't have an 8-hour work week. We've got a 40-hour work week. That's when overtime kicks in. They can still work 10, 12 hours a day and not pay you overtime until you get that 40 hours. So, really, we need to start pushing to reduce the hours. We have 6 hours, 4 hours. We have life to live. We should be able to go and enjoy that. And as I wrap up, I do have the camera here. I do have a person to tell about workplace safety, violence, or union organizing violence.
You got any union started? I'm still in the process. Like, we're talking to the people over the few years getting them. We're mainly building resources. We bought our house in terms of legal resources, and of course, people that share years about it. Now, the biggest thing we're trying to do right now is build trust, figure out what their issues are, and help them at least navigate it. My mom filled out last year. I was navigating together. But yeah, that takes a lot of resources. Yeah, so our biggest goal for this is to get some people that are interested in organizing, which of course, could turn into a network for other organizations.
1560. This is the Capitol switchboard. You're going to ask for Senator Pickens.
Yeah. I mean, our leader Dave is
he's not going to answer it. There's nobody there today.
But yeah.
Just leave a message for Senator Pickens to say thank you for your support on ProAct. Just want you to know that we're watching. We also like your support for anything we can.
Oh, he wasn't close enough to the Milwaukee.
When you get home this afternoon, the machine, look up your state senator, call them and ask them to support the
Oh, well, senator's my practice.
That's 087. Thank you.
How's it going?
Yeah, it is.
Thank you, Les. I don't think I saw enough people getting out their phones.
I just came up for that.
Hope you can hear.
All right, so next up we have Dylan Harris from the United Campus Workers, which is part of the Communication Workers of America. Come on up, Dylan.
Hey everybody, glad to be here, glad to see so many folks. I grew up in southern Mississippi in a small town of 300 people. It's a bit of a poetic return in a lot of ways for me to be here. I moved here in August, so I don't know many people, so my action is let's be friends. But I grew up getting focused on the family pamphlets every Sunday at my Sunday school, so it's really, again, a kind of a poetic return for me to be here, essentially in the backyard. So, in any case, my ask or my knowledge here is pretty specific to United Campus Workers Union, which is basically a wall-to-wall union for all of the University of Colorado system. I was really thrilled to find it here when I moved here. I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm happy to answer questions about it, but I also know that not everyone here works at the college.
I'm sure if we asked,
I guess all I want to say is that we exist. It's a good organization. It's young. There's a lot of cool stuff happening. There's a lot of discussions that really spread across sort of the intersectionality of labor, which isn't just workers' rights, right? It's student loan debt. It's racial justice. It's climate justice, which is a big part of what I do. And I'm really thrilled to see all that work happening at UCCS, at the university system more broadly. Again, it's a wall-to-wall union, so if you work there in some capacity, you're certainly welcome to join us and learn more about it. Again, my name's Dylan. I'm happy to be here, and I'll be around for a little bit longer, but that's pretty much it for me. I know it's a bit more of a specific thing, but after that, after me, I guess, we'll have this is Mayday. Thanks, guys.
celebrate all around the world.
Thank you, Dylan. I'm partial to it because I'm also in UCW. And the reason I that was important to invite Dylan here today is because Colorado Springs does not have a strong history of unionization. Well, that's not true. We do. We've been told to forget that history. So the more people understand that there are worker struggles all across the city. We saw it right downtown here at Wild Goose. People are still pushing back against workers organizing. 2 people got fired. Basically, everybody got fired, but 2 people got immediately fired after they started organizing because they were having their tips stolen. They weren't getting paid the minimum wage. That was just the facts of the matter. And then they closed down and they refused to rehire everybody who was part of that union drive. So, union struggles are happening here in Colorado Springs. We need more and more people to be participating in that struggle so that we can be stronger, to have a stronger future for everybody, like Les was talking about. So before we get to the music, I just wanted to share a little fundraiser that's happening.
My name's
D.
Christopher.
D, raise your hand for Jen. Where's Jen? Jen left, okay. It's for One Body and K-Line Community Cares. They're doing a Juneteenth festival this June down at America the Beautiful Park. It's going to be a 3-day festival. The Colorado Springs wind. But they're doing a fundraiser at Skate City. So if you want to talk to them and get a card, you can go to Skate City. You can do it all summer long, and it's part of a fundraiser for Juneteenth. So CT back there with the camera and a little red shirt. Not a little red shirt. It's a regular size shirt. Talk to him if you're interested in doing that. It's great for the kids. I used to love going to Skate City when I was a kid. You guys ready back there?
Yeah, we're going to look at the block organizers, but also if you just want to hear what's going on, just make note of events. We'll tell you about events. We don't do events too often. They're a big deal.
Yeah. There's some song sheets back there. One of you DSAers wants to maybe pass it on. Thanks for coming to May Day, everyone. We were gonna do some old labor movements. These are sing-alongs. They are very easy to learn and do. So we're just gonna do them, and we encourage all of you to sing along in the spirit of labor solidarity. Alright, so this first one is by a guy named Joe Hill. He was a badass. Okay, so the chorus is going to go a little bit something like this. There is power in a band working when they stand. Okay. There is power in a band working when they stand hand in hand. And that's a power that must rule in every land. One industrial union band. Alright, so that's how it goes. Would you have freedom from wage slavery and join in the grand industrial band? Do you from misery and hunger be free? Come on, do your share, hand to hand. There is power in the band when they stand hand in hand. That's a power that must rule in every one industrial union band. if you want nothing before you are dead, shake hands with your boss and look wise.
There is power in the band of working folks
When they stand hand in hand, that's a power that must rule in every land. One industrial union grand. Come all you workers from every land, come join in this grand industrial band. And be a share of this earth shall demand. Mom, do your share. One more time.
There is power in the band of working folks
When we stand hand in hand,
That's a power that must rule in every land.
one industrial union brand.
I like the camera on my phone also. Really good.
Nice. What kind of phone is that?
It's a Kyocera. Flex
All right,
Pro 2.
so this next
It's
one is
waterproof,
a song by a man
shockproof.
named Woody
It's
Guthrie,
built
also
to military
by,
specs.
Nice.
It's like really heavy duty, but it has
this one
really
is
loud
about,
speakers on it.
The demise of fascism.
It's louder than what you need in a windstorm.
So the chorus
Which
goes
we
a
have
little
many
like
here.
this.
It picks up really well. Yeah, I just bought a Hero 9. I bought a Hero 9 camera and I got the media mod with it. It
Oh, you
placed
fascist
an external speaker and stuff. It's good.
Oh,
That's a
you
good phone.
fascist
It's an iPhone.
It's old. I've had this 5 years.
Yep.
It's still ticking.
They take good pictures.
All right, so yeah.
I'm not going to replace it till it breaks.
No, it's not, if it serves what you need, keep it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you fascists, you may be surprised. The people in this world are getting organized. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. This is your part. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Well, people every color, marching side by side, marching across these fields where a million fascists died. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Lose, lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. I'm going into this battle, take my Union gun. We'll end this world of slavery before this battle's won. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Lose, lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Lose, lose. You bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Well, Donald Trump and Lauren Boebert, Governor Polis too, Dan Lamborn and Dan Crenshaw, and that slimy Cruz, you're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Woo! Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Lose, lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. One more time. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Lose, lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Yeah, we got water up here.
Got you.
Thanks, Aiden. Alright, so this last one is like also pretty popular, also written by a badass. I know it's the theme of the night. So
Traveling
this
This one is called Solidarity
I was
Forever.
wondering where that was coming from.
It's like coming from up there.
You'll get the chorus. It's really easy.
You never know what you're gonna get
Yeah,
down here.
Just toss it.
Yeah, that's true. No streakers yet. I haven't seen a streaker.
I'll take a streaker. A cute female one.
Can get, get that on video. We need to do a calendar. Just kidding.
Remember the streakers in the 70s?
Yeah, DSA calendar.
That's
Yeah,
what
they
my
used to
friend once
go.
told me. Summer
We
has
had one at our college. He got kicked out.
All right, so this one's Solidarity Forever.
And then he got reinstated. He didn't get kicked out.
You know, when I was a kid, you'd be driving down the road at night and there'd be somebody run across the road right in front of you naked. That was constant.
LSD. You know, a lot of them were on drums too.
And I'm too old for LSD now.
That's good. Highly addictive.
Not for me.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. It is we who plowed the prairies, built the cities where they trade, dug the mines and built the workshops and those miles of railroad laid. Now we stand outcast and starved amidst the wonders we have made, but the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn, but without our brains and muscles, not a single will can turn. We can break their haunted power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. In our hands placed the power greater than the hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. One more time. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Yeah. Thank you. It's amazing that they've never had one lesson.
Where you going, Gloria? Oh, that day.
Thank you for those few people who got that joke. So next up, we have a special speaker, Cora. I actually don't even know your last name, Cora. But Cora's gonna come talk to us about informal worker organizing.
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
they're not working in a directly criminalized part of the industry. We often find that criminalization starts when we start doing labor organizing, when we start working or organizing in groups, and then like everything else, you know, like if you are houseless or trans or a person of color, you're going to be more affected by criminalization. So sex workers issues are immigrants issues. Sex worker issues are racial justice issues. Sex worker issues are issues with the police state, with capitalism, with patriarchy, and often, you know, sex worker rights issues come from other discrimination that people face in other industries. So I actually started organizing accidentally, doing work at the intersection of sex work and nightlife, where I also worked as a bartender for a very long time. So a lot of the organizing that we do now grew out of informal events. We were doing service industry after hours. We were doing things that didn't seem threatening to the owners of our establishments, you know, Facebook groups, social outings, getting people together for drinks after shifts that went a long way towards providing a foundation for doing more formal community care-based organizing, but started out in a very loose way. So I usually am a little bit resistant to more formal organizing. I don't like you know, showing up to events that are based on inaccessible language, on studying white guys who stole most of their ideas from indigenous cultures anyway. You know, so I'm really big on the understanding that people know based on shared lived experience what we're up against.
Totally original.
And often, you know, in more informal settings, a lot of people are more comfortable getting together
cute.
and identifying, you know, what are common things that we are facing and what are things even, you know, if we share some similar identities as workers,
it's okay to say she's kind of
cute.
She's kind of cute.
Organizing around, you know, most of the groups that I work with include people from a very wide variety of backgrounds and experiences.
That's a very important sign.
We find that people often feel that there's a need for more specific community based around other marginalized identities, which I think any large inclusive group should be fostering the foundations for as much as possible, as a basic part of the work that they're doing. And I also feel like there are a lot of ways that we can be uniting in broader coalitions as criminalized people, as workers, and especially when I look at crossover between like the cannabis, the service industry, and the sex industry, we see, you know, these three areas where we're essentially dealing in unequally criminalized substances, technically, you know, which include alcohol, cannabis, or in the case of sex workers, you know, generally like femme-perceived bodies. So I think, especially what I would love to see in Southern Colorado, because there are not a lot of people who are out about their experience in the industry here, would be, you know, really like seeing larger groups of criminalized people coming together and finding, you know, ways that we can be working together as a large group to be passing things like repealing discriminatory laws and reallocating those funds towards community services, things like that. And also, you know, as we talk about the roots of May Day in European cultures and sing our workers' tunes, you know, in especially like in our workers' rights movements, we always have to really acknowledge the differences in circumstances a lot of us have and how we got here. You know, I am technically a fourth generation Colorado colonizer, based on how my family members came to be here. So, you know, many of us who are white folks living in Colorado have to consider how our identities as workers are also tied up as identities as colonizers, and how limiting, you know, basing so much of our energy around work-based organizing is to having, you know, a more holistic view of how we can be working together as humans and where we need to be giving rights back to
are kind of stuck in single mode identities or organizing models, I think it's really important to see ourselves as, united with all kinds of different struggles, even if they're not all the same. So thank you very much for that. Speaking of uniting ourselves in all these different struggles, housing is a huge issue that all folks face, especially in Colorado Springs today. I mean, this has always been a problem for working folks around the country, really around the world. I'm reminded of an old IWW cartoon that's like the working class getting squeezed between low wages and high rents from like 100 years ago. We're still facing those same problems. So today we have to talk about housing issues. Somebody who is organized among the unhoused very successfully. Katria, aka Bliss, will be speaking about organizing among the unhoused. Thank you. Sorry, Katria and Angel. Which I would panhandle down the street from my job. I would ask for quarters. Wouldn't just sit there ask for change. I'd ask for quarters so that I could kind of blend in. This corner now is spiked to keep everyone walking. It makes some weird kind of flower bed, I guess. No one's allowed to sit down. It's literally spiked. I eventually earned enough for a room at the old cheap motel. There was no deposit and I didn't have to worry about transit because there was a free shuttle at the time that would dash from South Nevada to again here in Spark. It and most of all of the other buses ran till about midnight. I worked the second shift because smartphones were still brewing into the popularity that it has now become, so I didn't have an alarm clock. A little under a decade after that chapter, I again found myself preparing to return back to the literal streets. Knowing how the laws have changed against being unhoused here, I traveled out of state, where I resided in a self-sustaining tent community or encampment. I knew I wanted to help people and make that my work. Starting from the tent up, I was inspired by our matriarch there. She cooked 3 square meals a day for the entire encampment and was the main donation drop-off point. I started using social media to gain more awareness of our community. Our supporters were gracious enough to help us not struggle as unhoused individuals. We even managed to try to start our own work program within our community. Not only were we the unhoused, keeping our home clean and safe, since the cops showed us that we were basically less than human to them, we fed and clothed the masses, unhoused or not, all in hourly paid shifts, just like your neighborhood, y'all neighborhood.
We did this from our tents. It's only different. But unfortunately, the endless war between let people live versus just sweep away the eyesores overpowered this country once again. So now, I again ask you, how are the unhoused supposed to work here in America? Especially here when simply setting up your shelter in place is a crime. Our shelters are overflowed, and in the 719, the buses stop a little after 9. There are people right now struggling to park close to work for the night, struggling to keep their belongings safe while they work, struggling to keep their jobs because they can't make that night shift. And we don't even have time to speak on the working unhoused that are trapped in addiction to level up their back-breaking jobs with strange hours. Lucky for them, they are doped up enough to work hard and fast, eventually to become housed near you for a little bit. Our homeless crisis in America goes much deeper than go get a job, especially here. And it's like our city, It's like to our city, the unhoused community, and too many historical things are stepped on and swept away as an eyesore and a check. They sweep the unhoused and mentally ill away for 7, 30, 90 days and get paid each time that door revolves, as a recidivist program taught me. Our city comes quick to trashing belongings and building spikes to keep people from panhandling there. Just everyone congregate by the 2 or 3 shelters we have. I believe in our city we have to find and regain our humanity, remembering that everyone's situation is different, and understand, meaning really get it through our heads, that the homeless or unhoused crisis is never ending in our country or any others. I'm sorry to break it to you. We must start with balance in our tolerance, helping our unhoused neighbors once again be self-sustaining enough to get and keep jobs, remembering that your unhoused neighbor is a human being, remembering that at a Thanos snap, almost all jobs could disappear. Open some of these empty gentrified buildings and use them for the public. Allow more programs and opportunities to help people not struggle again. We need to treat our people as a people, since the government has deemed most people a criminal check. We need to take the care away from our city's hot link team, and once again love our unhoused neighbors as we would our family. We as a community need to remove the rug our government has laid to help stop the sweeps, and once again give all power back to the 719, housed or not.
That's right, all power to the people. All power to all people. All right, up next we have Ryan from the Industrial Workers of the World, the Southern Colorado IWW. We'll be talking about platforming.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. Thank you all for being here. My name is Ryan. I work in the road and bridge construction industry here in Colorado, and I'm speaking today from the Southern Colorado branch of the Industrial Workers of the World. The IWW was formed in 1905 following progress made by trade unionists in the late 1800s demanding rights and collective autonomy in the workplace. Many of the rights that we enjoy today, like the 8-hour workday and having children not work in factories, were won by labor unions. But these rights were not won without hefty resistance from the ruling class. One of the most effective ways for the workers to protect their rights is to join a workers' union. The Industrial Workers of the World was originally formed to provide a place for radical workers to collectivize and to organize, being unique, because rather than acting as an entity for a single industry like the CWA or the IBEW, the IWW seeks to organize across industries and to unite the working class as a whole, forming one big union. One of our founders, Eugene Debs, said, "The man who seeks to arouse prejudice among workers is not their friend. He who advises the white wage worker to look down upon the black wage worker is the enemy of both." The employing class understands that the biggest threat to capital is the workers realizing their oppression and uniting as a class and engaging in a general strike. This is why the capitalist class resorts to distraction and division to keep the workers pitted against each other over trivial identity politics and silly rivalries. Historically, the working class has been wrought with division by the employing class as a way to divert revolutionary potential from working class movements and to weaken our bonds with those united in struggle. This is a basic example of what's known simply as class warfare. Back in the day of the foundation of the IWW, this war was waged on us workers by the employing class may have looked a little different, as striking workers may be beaten or killed by the police or other members of the government. But granted, this still happens occasionally when workers are forced to the front lines to protect their class interests. But class warfare in this country nowadays is rarely a militant struggle in the streets, but has evolved into something more sinister entirely. Today, class warfare looks like starvation wages. It looks like threatening workers with homelessness and hardship around every corner. If you take time off for illness, family matters, or bereavement, the capitalist treats you with little to no forgiveness or understanding of your circumstances. Our employers ask so much from us workers, and we receive pennies on the dollar in return. Class warfare looks like the average employee productivity skyrocketing for the last 30 years without sufficient wage increases to keep up. Neoliberal trickle-down economics have ruined this country and bastardized this idea of the American dream, where you can start with nothing and to make something of yourself through hard work and determination, into the dark reality where we all work ourselves to the point of exhaustion, and it isn't barely enough to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. Our employers steal from us every single day, letting us make them more and more profits, only to be left out in the cold when they can find somebody that they can exploit more easily. Some folks work 2 or 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. One job should be enough, not just to survive, but to lead a healthful and balanced life, where we get to enjoy our families, have picnics with our romantic partners, where we can play cards with our friends in the park. We should be free to stop to smell the flowers without being reprimanded for interrupting productivity. Working class individuals deserve to be happy too. How do we get there? Well, one of the most common things to hear in leftist spaces is this concept of revolution. Many people treat this revolution as a grand event that we are all working towards, but I mean, if you look around you, the revolution is here, and it's been here for generations. All we have to do is to participate through collective direct action. Workers have been wrestling with this behemoth called capitalism since the days of feudalism, and now it's our turn to band together to join in this fight for liberation. The revolution is building powers in our communities through solidarity and support across industries. We start by building relationships and connections with our fellow humans. We start by showing up and lending support when our pals and our colleagues need us. We need the barbers showing up for the doctors. We need the tradespeople showing up for service workers. The performing artists showing up for the farmers, and the bud tenders showing up for the teachers. This is precisely the vision of the one big union. We must realize that we are in this together, united in struggle against class warfare that seeks to pit us against one another, members of our community, based on race and religion and political beliefs. But we must reject the short-sightedness of a system that prioritizes the instant gratification of profit and replace it with a system based in collaboration and sustainability. If the last year has taught us anything, it's that the world is changing, and humanity itself is changing with it. We have the opportunity to step into a new world of equality, compassion, and freedom. So please, join me in the one big union so that we can get to work on our terms. We have a world to build. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, and also Viva the Revolution. All right, up next we have, thanks for one whoop for that, guys. Thank you. Up Next, we have Mara from the Colorado Springs DSA. Give it up for Mara. Thank you.
All right, can you all hear me okay? Yeah. Well, I was asked to speak today on behalf of Colorado Springs DSA. And I immediately say yes, but I will confess to all of you now, I had no idea what I was going to say at first, okay? What am I going to talk about? This was a few days before the Derek Chauvin verdict came in. My entire body felt on edge, as I'm sure it felt on edge for many black and brown, many people of color here in Colorado Springs and just frankly around the entire country, right? Many of our white friends too. Appreciate y'all. And when the verdict came in, at first I breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, at least this man is being held accountable for what he did. Okay.
Tell me your name again so I can write it down.
Doug.
Doug.
Yeah. My YouTube channel's Law and Disorder.
Law and Disorder?
Mm-hmm.
That was an example.
Everything from last year is still on there.
No. Justice.
I remember you from Grey Goose.
In which George
You were
Floyd
Grey Goose, right?
is still alive. Justice would be a world in which we no longer have the police as a force standing above the people, ready to enforce the systems of domination that oppress all of us working class people, but especially those of us from one or more marginalized backgrounds.
What's your name?
So
James.
James.
Kind of ugliness.
I can
right?
remember that.
Sadness and pain. I finally did find the message that I wanted to share today. And that is that I have hope.
You'd all freak out
for
if
the
you found
future.
out that's my real name, right?
I have hope for the future, and I think you all should too. Okay? Now I know that our world is reeling from the effects of multiple interlocking crises. Okay? I am not naive about that. It would be foolish. But I think that something started to change in the minds of many people last year. It's been changing for a long time, but I think that last year was a bit of an inflection point. Okay? So we saw some of the biggest mass protests in United States history last year. I remember marching down Nevada Avenue, dodging these fascists in their white trucks trying to plow us over. What is it with fascists in their white trucks anyway? No offense if any of y'all have a white truck. But we were able to actually do something out of this, right people? We were able to actually put the question of defunding the police into mainstream conversation. The idea that we should fund services that help people, that actually keep us safe, rather than the repressive apparatus of the state. We were able to win some limited reforms around the country, reforms that are by no means sufficient to win justice, but they are things that would not have happened without the power of the people demanding them. Even here in Colorado Springs, I don't know if y'all know this, we've got a pretty right-wing local government here in the Springs. Anybody know that?
Yep.
Yeah. Even here, we were able to put these people on notice that we will not be silent, okay? And so now we're in this place, right? We had a little whoopsie of an attempted fascist coup on January 6th, but that didn't end up being too much of a thing. So now we're sitting here, we have this new administration here in Colorado, we have a Democratic governor, and what do we often hear from these types of politicians? We often hear this refrain of, "You did it, congratulations, hashtag Black Lives Matter, now please stop fighting, please stop making noise, please trust the process." Trust the process of a system that exists to uphold domination over us, the majority of the people. They tell us that the dream won't be deferred forever. We've been waiting 400 years on that dream, speaking as a black person. They tell us the dream won't be deferred forever. You need to just, don't look past your nose, okay? Take care of you and yours, hustle your way to success, maybe engage in some civic action in the form of voting, but other than that, live your private life. The idea that there's your private life and then there's public life at large, and these two things don't touch each other. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's absolute nonsense. Of course they do. Of course they do. Your freedom is linked to my freedom and to yours and to everyone's here. I will not be free until you are free and vice versa. There is no way out of this mess except together. Okay? So, what does that mean? We saw these heroic waves. Yeah, spaceship's coming.
That is a heroic wave.
Okay, all with me now? Wonderful. So we saw this heroic burst, elemental mass action last year, and I think we know that that it gets results. But as important as that is, as important as the rage of the people is, I am here to tell you, regrettably, that by itself it is insufficient. We can't win a liberated world relying only on elemental bursts of popular anger. For that, and I will now start to kind of echo what every other speaker before me has said in their own way, for that to truly get free, we need organization. We need to organize long-term to win political power for working class and oppressed people. Now that can look like a lot of things, okay? It doesn't necessarily look like, like a bunch of big burly steelworker dudes going to their union meeting. Although it can look like that. Organizing takes place whenever two or more working class and oppressed people come together in order to accomplish our shared interests. And believe me, we do have shared interests. All of us here have so much more in common with each other than we do with the 1%, the ruling class, the capitalist class. Look, whatever you want to call them, that's fine by me. But the point is that we need to be together in order to defeat them because, and I'm sure this will be no shock, these people are very well funded and well organized, okay? There is an army of paid persuaders out there whose sole purpose is to convince different sections of the working class, different sections of oppressed people to stand against other parts of the working class, to stand against other oppressed people, okay? So we have to cast that off. Solidarity is the most important word that I want everyone to take home today. Our vision is expansive. I am a proud socialist. I know how far we are in this hyper-capitalist country, the world hegemon of capitalism. We are very far away, but we are never going to get to where we want to go unless we start walking together. Solidarity can move mountains. The organization that I give some of my time to is, of course, the Democratic Socialists of America. You might wonder, what's the point, right? We all lead such busy lives. We are working double shifts. We are hustling. We are scrambling. I mean, we're lucky to even get a little bit of time with our kids in, right? Which is a damn shame. But I think it's worth it to organize. I think it's worth it to join in solidarity with other people in order to accomplish our shared goal of steps toward liberation. In the Democratic Socialists of America, we work at the ballot box, we work in the workplace, in your apartment complex, or in the community at large to actually start to build that democratic power that can get us somewhere. And this can obviously take many different forms. I mean, even right here in Colorado Springs, right? The Wild Goose Meeting House workers were able to actually do something. Right now, we all have those bosses, right? They all steal from us. They all mess with us in terms of our schedules. They belittle us. They demean us. They sexually harass many of us, unfortunately. But these workers at Wild Goose, right around here, as a matter of fact, were actually able to win back wages. And truly, friends, can can you imagine that happening, like on a one-to-one basis, right? You know, you just kind of go up to your boss and you're like, hey, boss, you know, I'm sorry, I'm not really happy about these working conditions. Since you say you have an open door policy, I shall just take care of this as an individual, one-to-one with my boss. Come on. Come on. We are only able to do this together. So, I want to close today by truly emphasizing you all, every single person here right now, has something incredibly valuable to give to the movement. And that's you. We really need all of you. There are no leaders who are going to be able to descend from on high and lead us out of these crises. It's going to be us together. I want you to reject the logic of capitalism that tells you that you're on your own. Reject it. Embrace the logic of solidarity, because that is our best chance of bequeathing a world worth living in to future generations. So please, join or get involved with one more of the groups that you have learned about here today. Get involved in any shape that you can. If you don't have money, that's okay. Donating money is only one means to support this vast and interconnected movement. We need your time. We need your unique skills. We need the things that you have that nobody else does. Okay? So don't forget that. Solidarity is not an abstract concept. It doesn't organize and fight back.
Anybody know this one? Escucha, escucha, estamos en la lucha. Escucha, escucha, estamos en la lucha. That just means listen, listen.
Yes.
Escucha, escucha, estamos en la lucha. 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 Poverty wages, union busting. Poverty wages, union busting. Poverty wages, union busting. Poverty wages, union busting. Poverty wages. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Union busting's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Union busting's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Union busting's got to go. Hey, hey.
Marching down Tejon.
Union busting's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Union busting's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Union busting's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Union busting's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho.
Hit that like button in case things go sideways.
Ho, ho. Union busting's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Stand up, fight back. Stand
Now
up,
fight back.
Stand up,
Fight back.
Stand up, fight back. Stand up, fight back.
Stand up, fight back.
Stand up, fight back. The workers united
Will never be defeated.
The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united. The
busting! Poverty wages! Union busting! Poverty wages! Union busting! Poverty wages! Union busting! Poverty wages! Union busting! Poverty wages! Ho ho! Union busting is got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! It's got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! Union busting's got to go! Union busting's got to go! Hey hey! Ho ho! Union busting's got to go! Ho ho! Union busting's got to go! Stand up, fight back! 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 Ain't no power like the power of the people, 'cause the power of the people don't stop. Ain't no power like the power of the people, 'cause the power of the people don't stop. Ain't no power like the power of the people, 'cause the power of the people don't stop. Ain't no power like the power of the people, 'cause the power of the people don't stop. Ain't no power like the power of the people, 'cause the power of the people don't stop. Ain't no power like the power of the people, 'cause the power of the people don't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people, 'cause the power of the people don't stop. Say what? What's disgusting? Union busting. What's outrageous? Poverty wages. 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 All right, so we're stopping here because up here on the 9th floor, or something like that, is Senator Hickenlooper's office. Senator Hickenlooper has said he supports the PRO Act, but he refuses to really do anything about it. He hasn't come out to push fellow Democrats to support the PRO Act because there are still a few Democrat holdouts that refuse to say that they support the PRO Act, which is why, in my mind, the PRO Act is the least we can do. You know, if you don't get the PRO Act, I guess the next step, revolution. That's what they're asking for, though. Working people are tired of getting screwed over by the capitalist class, by neoliberalism. So we need at least some allies in Congress to come out and vocally support us. So remember, when you guys get home today, to call Senator Hickenlooper and tell him, thank you for supporting the PRO Act, but can you please speak out and convince your other Democratic senators and Republican senators to support the PRO Act as well. In addition, we need to get rid of the filibuster. We cannot pass any legislation right now as long as we have the filibuster, when a tiny minority of the country can veto veto bills that are for a majority of the country. The Senate, Republicans in the Senate represent something like 17% of the population, but they're able to veto bills because of the filibuster. So tell Senator Hickenlooper, tell Senator Gardner as well. I don't know where he stands on this, to be perfectly honest. Oh yeah, Gardner's old office. Tell Bennett as well. We need to get rid of the filibuster. As long as we have the filibuster has a racist legacy anyway, let's just get rid of it. Let's get rid of all these old legacies. The Senate made the rules in it anyway. The Senate can change the rules. Call them, stay on them. We're not going to get any progressive legislation passed as long as we just let them do what they always do, which is nothing, right? So we need to pressure them, but also we need to stick together. We need to fight together. Working class is under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. Working class is under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. Working class is under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. Working class is under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. So what are you guys going to do when you get home today? What are you going to tell him? Alright, we're going to head down to Pioneer Plaza, have another couple minutes of talking, and we're going to head back to Acacia Park. Anybody walking by is going to join us as well, you guys? Alright,
We're gonna write on that because
are you guys ready? The people united will never be divided. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never
Fuck the police!
The people united will never be defeated. 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 Poverty wages! Union busting! Union busting! Poverty wages! Poverty wages! Poverty wages! Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too! Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too! They make millions, we get screwed! Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too! They make millions, we get screwed! Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too! They make millions, we get screwed! Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too! They make billions, we get screwed! Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too! They make billions, we get screwed! Fuck Button!
Fuck Bezos too! They make
billions, we get screwed! Remember, the working class has no borders. Let's try this one again. Escucha, escucha, estamos en la lucha. 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 this in our history books, but we actually have a proud history of class struggle in this region. So who here is familiar with the IWW? Hopefully all of you after the rally. The seedling of the IWW, of Revolutionary Industrial Union, was actually formed here in the Pikes Peak region. All right, we're teaching some history.
Well, not like you're blocking my guests from
We'll let
coming
them
out.
come in. They're good. They're good.
No, they're not. No, so I appreciate it.
This is a public property. Stop.
I know. So we're just having a
We'll be here for a couple minutes and then we'll leave.
Yeah.
In fact, if you wanted to talk a little bit about history,
That would be really awesome, sir.
Unfortunately, I ain't got time.
all right.
All right.
About had it with these folks.
Get off my
So-
lawn.
Public institution. Exactly, that's what they do. So in the Pikes Peak region, up in the Cripple Creek mining district, in the late 1800s, there were two significant struggles that occurred in this area. So first was the strike of 1894. During this strike in Cripple Creek, it's called the Cripple Creek District. It encompasses Cripple Creek, Victor, all those small mining towns up there, if you guys have ever been up there. So there's a massive strike where basically the entire region went on strike. All the gold mines shut down. And after that strike, they gained so much power after that strike that they basically came to dominate politics up there. They dominated everything. Bussers were in the union. They had their own newspapers up there. They had judges, magistrates, sheriff. The sheriff was a member of the Western Federation of Miners up there. In fact, they became so powerful that they broke off from El Paso County to become Teller County because El Paso County was the seat of conservatism. It was the seat where all the mine owners lived and worked. And so they broke off. Like I said, they had their own judges, they had their own sheriffs. And so in 1904, a strike occurred in what we now call Old Colorado City. Old Colorado City was where all the mine that came down from Cripple Creek District was milled. So there were several mills down in Old Colorado City. It was called Colorado City back then. So they went on strike, and Big Bill Haywood, one of the founders of the IWW, he was the secretary of the Western Federation of Miners. He said, okay, we're gonna test revolutionary industrial unionism here right now. And so when those mines went on strike, he said all the mills need to go out on strike, and all of the mines that are feeding gold to those mills need to go on strike as well. And so they closed down mines up in the Cripple Creek District. The strike spread all the way to Idaho Springs. It spread all the way down to Durango. And in fact, in Idaho Springs, once they walked out, the sheriff freaked out. And they opened fire on the striking workers. But in Teller County, because they controlled Teller County, they controlled the judges, they controlled the sheriff, they were on their side. The law didn't come after the strikers, which pissed off the Republican governor at the time. So the Republican governor sent up train cars full of deputized folks from El Paso County. So they sent up deputies from El Paso County to go fight the miners up in the Cripple Creek District. One of the things, unfortunately, that they did is the first set of railroad cars that they sent up to fight the miners up in Cripple Creek was a rail car full of black workers from Colorado Springs. They convinced them to go fight the workers up there, and they sent them as the first line of people because they knew that they were armed up in Cripple Creek. Luckily, bloodshed was avoided that day. But later there was mass bloodshed, and in fact the state governor sent in marshals into the Cripple Creek District, into Durango, and into Idaho Springs, and this is what we now call today the Colorado Labor Wars. Basically, Colorado instituted martial law to put down the massive industrial strike that was happening at the time because they were gaining so much power. They were so afraid of the power that the miners had leveraged at that point, they had to bring out the military and put them down militarily. They actually arrested judges. They arrested the sheriff up in Teller County because he refused to arrest the striking workers. So it was a months-long series of battles that occurred in the mountains of Colorado that we now call the Colorado Labor Wars. And basically it's what defeated the miners in Colorado at the time because they had so much political power before that. So I think it's important to remember that history because we do have this legacy of militant working class power in this region, but I was never taught that in school. How many of you guys were taught that in school. I mean, maybe some of you guys aren't from around here. I'm the third generation from Colorado Springs. The only time I learned about this was eventually when my mom mentioned it to me, because we had family who were miners down in the coal mining districts down in Ludlow, which of course was another massacre that happened around here. So thank you, everybody. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of the background about working class militancy here. And we can march back up to Nevada.
Yeah, we're gonna head around here. We're gonna march down Nevada back to Acacia Park. All right, guys?
Can I say something?
Oh yeah, yes.
Hi everybody, my name is Rebecca. I just want to say that I'm here on behalf of my Mexican and my indigenous ancestors, and I want everybody to know that aquí estamos y no nos vamos, that the May Day and the workers' struggle is a cross-border struggle. It's an intersectional struggle. Who is picking our food? Who is picking our vegetables? Who are the frontline workers? They're people who look like me, who are being locked up in ICE detention centers right now, whose wombs are getting ripped out of their bodies, whose children and babies are being taken away from them. People who look like me, and these are the people who are out there sacrificing their lives, working with no benefits, no health care. They don't get to be essential workers. We don't get to work from home and work a remote job. We don't necessarily get the unemployment benefits. So I want to represent those workers, my ancestors. We're here. We're not going anywhere. We're not in your history books. Indigenous people are alive. We're well. And the way to heal from capitalism is by going back to our indigenous ways, while we live in harmony with the earth and we live in harmony with one another, regardless of the color of our skin or our class, living in harmony with the animals and nature. That's the only way we can save our planet.
Union busting! Poverty wages! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Union busting's got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Capitalist class has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Capitalist class has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
The capitalist class has got to go!
Hey, hey!
Ho, ho! Capitalist class has got to go!
Hey, hey!
Ho, ho! Capitalist class has got to go!
Hey, hey!
Ho, ho! Capitalist class has got to go!
Hey, hey!
Ho, ho! Capitalist class has got to go! Stand up, fight back! 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 Stand up, fight back!
We'll never be defeated! The people united will 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 never be defeated!
The people united will never be defeated! Woo! United. I'm really tired of
Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too!
They make billions and we get screwed!
Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too!
They make billions and we get screwed!
Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too!
They make billions and we get screwed!
Fuck Musk!
Fuck Bezos too! They make billions and we get screwed!
Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too!
They make billions and we get screwed!
Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too!
They make billions and we get screwed!
Fuck Musk! Fuck Bezos too!
They make billions and we get screwed!
Working class under attack, what do we do?
up, fight back! Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back!
Working class under attack, what do we do? Working class under attack, what do we do? Poverty wages! Union busted! 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 Poverty wages!
Kentucky Derby girls.
Stand up, fight back!
Good job.
I kept being on the wrong side.
My story of my life.
I want to be on the side where the cars are to take the impact first if I'm trying to protect you.
They're not gonna bother this group.
You didn't see that, dude?
I seen one.
The truck back there that almost ran me over?
Yeah, I did see that.
Did you get it on camera?
Yep.
Oh, I'd like to have that.
Law and Disorder on YouTube.
I'd love to have it. I'll have to go on there and look it up.
I did see that dumbbell.
You said fuck you to me first.
Really?
That's why I said fuck. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Can it be more clear?
I didn't hear anything.
I could see it. I mean, it, you know, the tensing and everything, but I can tell that's essentially what it said. I read lips better than I hear.
All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Happy May Day. See you soon.